Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Pam Spurr, here with you every fortnight on a Thursday on the men's radio station for Trending with Dr. Pam, and it's repeated on Fridays, 4 p.m. on both the men's and the women's stations. Now, what do we do on the show? We take the trends from social media and we bring them back to our lives, what they mean to us. Forget what the politicians and the celebrities are doing. And I always have awesome guests who share their views, their stories, their journeys, and we learn so much from them. Don't forget, you can follow both the men's and women's radio stations on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the usual places. Now, I'm super psyched for my first guest, who is part of the multi-platinum selling group, The Overtones, and also a radio and TV presenter. He was in the final 8 of the X Factor 2014. And on Twitter and Instagram, you can find him at JJames. And you can find the Overtones at _overtones. And I'm delighted that Jay is going to join me now.
Hey!
Hello. Hey, you're child free. You had your adorable little Franklin with you a few minutes ago when we were talking.
I did. I must admit, though, Dr. Pam, Franklin may be making a bit of an appearance because my wife, I've done the. It's a bit cliche now with the old lockdowns that we've been having, but the childcare scenario, I'm still looking after Franklin, so he may pop up in a minute. But it's great to see you. And can I just say, those 2 pictures, those paintings behind you are incredible. Who painted those?
Well, guess who? Thank you. But they both have really dramatic stories behind them. I'll just highlight the one. This is called The Ghost Breast, about a breast cancer survivor who lost a breast to surgery, but felt there was like the ghost of her breast left. So I tried to create that in that. But hey, I want to say we're already joined by Helen, who says, hey, Pam. Hello, everyone. Hey, Jay. Hello, lovelies.
Hello, Helen.
Great to see Helen's joined us. Now, Jay, you have got so much going on. But before we get to the overtones and then what's trending, I just want to ask, what's it been like with lockdown loosening? Hasn't it made life a bit easier for you and your family now?
Yeah, do you know what? It's one of those things where we're still a little bit kind of trying to get used to it. I think we've been in that bubble where, you know, as you know, Pam, 3 days a week I'm up sort of commuting to my radio show, you know, the big show on BFBS. So it's kind of, I've been out and about through that time as a kind of key worker. So, but it's just like the normal life things, going to shops, you know, going out to days out and things like that we've not been able to sort of do. And that's the thing really, is like getting the kids out and doing that. And that's something that's just been so amazing, you know, just going to the park and going to the farm with the kids is just like, it's lush. Because Franklin is my 2-year-old son. You know, he's so young, and the majority of the year that he's experienced and coming into consciousness has kind of almost just been around the house, and of course going out for walks and certain things. But now going to like certain farms, we've got a wonderful place near us called Puxton Park, and it's got all the animals and loads of different rides and different things. And he just absolutely loves it, you know, and it's gorgeous to see. So yeah, thoroughly enjoying ourselves, and hopefully this is the beginning of, you know, something that's just going to keep on opening, and hopefully we'll be out and about and doing a lot more shows from a music perspective too, live music.
Well, exactly. And we'll be coming on to that in a minute. But I just wanted to say, you know, there's been a lot of worry for people with children Franklin's age, you know, toddlers during lockdown. Of course, you know, Nova, your older child, has more understanding. But he must be kind of reveling in actually being able to be taken to places and petting farms and whatever.
Yeah, he really has. And also, you know, not just Franklin, because it's almost like Franklin's discovering all these things for the first time again, you know, but also he's hit his name, and he can see you. Here we go.
Hello.
Ready?
Oh, hello again, Franklin. I just saw you a few minutes ago. Oh,
say it again. What is that?
Car.
Oh, is there a car out there? And tell me, is your daddy fun to play with?
A scooter.
And a scooter. Okay. Well, I was just wondering if you would spill the beans on your dad and whether or not he's fun to play with.
Franklin, who's your favourite group? What's your favourite music? I think you said the Overtones.
Yes, the Overtones. Hey, we've got lots of people joining in. Anne-Marie says "Guten Mittag," however you say that in Dutch. I think it's hello. And Charlotte Lamb is saying hello. And Marie says she's liking the orange. Yeah, so we've got some of your major fans here.
They're amazing.
And they're saying hello to Franklin. Oh, he's adorable. Although he didn't give me a scoop on whether Daddy was a fun daddy or not a fun daddy.
I'm a fun daddy. I'm a fun daddy always. I think that's the problem. I need to be a little bit less fun at times.
Yeah, a little more strict.
Yeah, totally.
Well, listen, let's get on to the Overtones. Now, you've just released also A Night to Remember, and my lovely producer, Sina, has a clip of it. So let's listen to that and then hear about the Overtones news. I think we're going to get a clip.
When you love someone, it's natural, not demanding. And there's one thing that I'm proud to say, I found in you. I'm so glad that we've reached an understanding. Now I know my heart is safe with you.
Let's party. Come on, let's party. I cannot wait to see you guys live. So, Franklin, pretty cool tune.
Who was that by, Frankie? Who was that singing?
I think it was Daddy.
He's fascinated at the moment.
Overtones.
There we go.
The Overtones. Yeah. For the Overtones. Rock the house with the Overtones.
For the Overtones, Frankie.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah, you want to hear it again? Well, unfortunately, we need to talk to Daddy about lots of other things. I love that. Charlotte's saying, I absolutely love that. And Anne-Marie is laughing. Yeah, that's the way to cheer everybody up. We need that.
Yeah, you know what? We're so excited to get out and just get performing again. Do you know what I mean? And it's of course, the album at the moment. We've been for the last 18 months, really. We've been working on the album, which is available to pre-order right now, including the deluxe version. And
is that signed, the deluxe version?
It is. You know, they're signed. All the signed copies are available on our website, so theovertones.tv. And
cool. I'm going to get one of those. I want the signed one.
You can have the signed one, Dr. Pam. Yeah, so we're just mega excited about it all, really, Dr. Pam. I've got Victoria at the door now, who's going to take over child duty. So
that's cool. I love live radio. You see, if people are watching, you're going out and you're doing what you have to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, Pam. But
I was going to say, Anne-Marie says the album is it 30th of July? So is that the actual release date?
It is indeed. Yeah, it is indeed. We've got a bit of a run up, and it was just delayed by a month slightly because we had so many tracks and so many things that we wanted to do, and it was just like, oh gosh, how can we make these things happen? And unfortunately, we couldn't get it all in time for the original release. So we just moved back a month and was able to get things like cassettes and the t-shirts and the deluxe version out there, which we're just mega excited about. So just head across to the website and take a look, guys. It's ridiculous as well what we've been able to do with like the value of stuff, being able to attach a signed physical and a digital deluxe version. Like, I think the digital deluxe is about $4.99, which is nuts because you can't get a 99 ice cream for that nowadays. So I don't think we're making any money on this, but it's you know, it's brilliant because it's not about that. It's about us being able to create new music. So when we get out and tour, which is what we love to do best, people can, you know, enjoy some of the music they've been listening at home, you know.
Well, that's what I want to find out. First, let me just some of the messages. Helen says she's got the cassette on order. And let's see what Charlotte says she has both signed versions on pre-order. And also, I haven't been out since October, so can't wait to see the boys live again. You see, this gives people a sense of, oh my goodness, this is going to be the most incredible thing to see live music. So tell me, how excited are you guys to actually perform again? And how much are you rehearsing together right now?
Do you know what? We're probably together on a sort of weekly basis doing different things. And, you know, it's like, it's just lush now because we were always in a bubble. But there's always that thing where you're in a bubble and, you know, of course, the COVID testing and all that. But it feels like there was always that sense that it's like you're almost doing wrong because you're together in a bubble. But we weren't. You know, it was all totally legal. We were allowed to do it and all that sort of stuff. But now, you know, just seeing everybody else, you know, rehearsing in parks together and like seeing everybody sort of walk by and,
you're rehearsing in a park? Any greater London parks? I want to go to that park.
The weather's just, you know, it's wonderful. I think we've got a bit of a heat wave coming this weekend as well.
We do.
By all accounts. So that's lovely. So, yeah, it's just been so great. Like, we felt like there's been a bit of a cloud, you know, and as you know, we just love to bring the sunshine. But, you know, it's hopefully now, guys, you know, we can expect really good things to happen and get back out to touring and, you know, experiencing life as we used to in some ways, hopefully.
Exactly. Now, Lindsay says we will hear the new live tracks at the Concord Club as the album is out after before this show in July. So are you talking about the Concord in Brighton or which Concord?
No, so this is the Concord in Eastleigh, which is near Portsmouth.
Okay, I haven't been to that one. I've been to Concord Brighton, but not that one.
It is amazing, Pam. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I think we're there. I mean, I'm sure people will correct me, but I think we're on the 4th and 5th of July, 2 nights. It's a really special place for us, and we love it. It's really intimate, and yeah, we can't wait. And we will be performing some of the new tracks there, guys. Yeah, absolutely. As we will be for our online show, which is happening a little bit later on in June. So
cool.
Yeah, it's happening on the 15th of June, and it's a kind of worldwide global show, online show that we've done for everybody. And, you know, and we're performing some of the new tracks on that as well. So,
and what are people buying tickets for the online show? Where do they get these? You know,
they can head to stable.com, which is STABAL.com, and what they can do is when they go there, they can buy an online ticket to the show, but also they can purchase the album from there as well. And you know, there's a bundle where they can get a t-shirt, but actually, you know, for all of the signed stuff, the digital stuff, just go to our website, theovertones.tv, and you know, every sale for us counts towards chart positions and stuff. So come, I think it's the 7th of August, you know, we're looking to try and, you know, do as best we possibly can, you know, in the charts. And it's a really difficult climate at the moment. So, we're hoping people can support us and we can try and do best we can there. So we'll see how we get on. It's not all about that. Of course it's not. But, after 10 years that, you know, the boys 10 years ago had a number 4 in the album charts. And so we'd love to, we'd love to get there again. Yeah, we'd love to get a top 10. You know, we would.
That would be incredible. Well, we'll give out that information again at the end of the interview where we can do it. I've got a couple of questions that Helen had told me that, you know, I should ask you. And the first one is, what is your embarrassing childhood memory? I have one, and I want to hear one from you.
Okay. All right. Oh, gosh. Go on. You tell me yours first, Dr. Pam, because I want to know how embarrassing I could go.
Okay, well, it was like a summer sports day, and I was only about 5, and we were doing a sack race, and I misunderstood the instructions, and I thought you only had to run one length, but you actually had to turn around and come back. So I hopped my little heart out in that sack, got to that line first and kind of jumped around excited, not really noticing all the other 5 and 6-year-olds were turning around and going back for the second lap. And when I realized I can remember that was kind of the first time I felt embarrassed as a child, that I just felt I had won. Yay. And I was like,
oh no, oh bless you.
And the moral of the story is listen to instructions, children. And I would have heard twice, do the length twice.
Oh, bless you. Well, I suppose my embarrassing story is kind of like quite the opposite to that message. And that is like, don't listen sometimes to family members.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And my grandfather, Walters, who many of the people that are tuned in will know that I've spoken about so many times, because he was such a character and such a massive influence, and he had a massive impact on my life and myself as a character, and he was the sort of family photographer. So he loved taking pictures of everybody, like he was that guy that was kind of like, whenever the family's around, he's taking pictures. And then, when technology was able to provide it, he was the one that was making the kind of calendars with the family pictures, just, to give everybody. But he was a very talented photographer. And I believe somewhere you'll probably find photos, because he actually had some put on the BBC Wales website, of his sunsets that he used to take. We used to get up every morning and go and take pictures of the sunset down at Saundersfoot Harbour where we lived. Vivian Walters was his name, Viv Walters. Anyway, when he did take family photos, to get everybody laughing, and this was specifically for the adults, he used to say, "Everybody say condoms." Right, okay. So he'd say, everybody say condoms, which was highly inappropriate for us children. And then the minute he got us, he used to say, "Gotcha!" And so anyway, the embarrassing story goes, and every time, and I picked up as a child that every time he used to say it, everyone would laugh hysterically, and there'd be a lot of fun and banter. And so anyway, I was brought up in a Catholic primary school with nuns, and so anyway, I must have been no older than Nova, around 7-8 years old, conscious to the world, knew what was going on. And so I picked this up. So we had a school photograph, and all of the nuns were collected behind us, and the photographer, the whole school was there, and I wasn't shy. And as soon as he took the photo, I said, "Everybody say condoms."
Oh my goodness! Did you get in trouble with the nuns?
I was, to which, of course,
I'm crying from laughing.
I was pulled into the headmaster's office with the nuns, and my mother was asked to come into school to suggest where on earth my son had got this from. So anyway, but it was it was that
beats my story. Mine was so innocent compared to yours.
I mean, I was innocent. I didn't know what it meant. So, but
and you didn't know until you were 30 years old what it meant.
I still don't know what it means. I still don't know what it means.
We've got Helen saying no, and Charlotte no, and they're all laughing. Everybody's commenting with laughter.
Yeah, absolutely. But
now, I was going to say the next question Helen had for us was, "What's the best advice you've ever been given?" There's a couple of there was a couple of bits as I follow on again from that Walters, my granddad, used to say to me, and he was a very successful businessman, my granddad, an entrepreneur in many ways, and his ability to communicate with people and motivate and inspire people was something that I always looked up to. His character, he spoke, but he always used to say to me, "James, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice." And that's always stuck to me, because it's so true. And do you know what? I've been really blessed to work with some incredible people over the years, a lot
a lot of people that, you know, a lot of names that I could drop, but also a lot of people that
drop a few. Go on, drop a few.
Well, you know, you know, the likes of Booker T,
Yes.
Justin Timberlake, you know, like John Legend, like people, you know, who have been really, really successful, but in fact, that have just been the most amazing people.
Yes.
You know, and really gave to other people time. They gave their time to people, and but also some people who you wouldn't know and had equally as a big of influence. And that's always come to me. My dad always says to me, in all things be humble. And I kind of think those two, again, always go together. They always go together. So
that explains your personality, darling. I love your personality. I mean, it's just incredible. And people are saying, you know, Helen's saying that's absolutely so true. Love that. And Marie's saying, you know, about it's just gone off screen. It's nice to be important, but more important to not be nice. And saying, great. Yes, nice. Charlotte saying grandparents are so wise. Yes, they are.
Yeah, they are. It's so true. You know, that it's yeah. I was very fortunate to have to have two grandparents and two grandmothers who, again, just were so influential in my life and who I am today. So yeah.
Well, I was going to say, to answer Helen's question, my little bit of advice that I had from my late father when my eldest was a teenager, like, do you remember Harry Enfield and Kevin, that teenager that used to grunt? Okay. Well, although that was before my son was a teenager, probably just before when that came out, quite a bit before. When he was a teenager, he was like that. And I used to say to my dad, oh my gosh, Dad, what do I do? And he said, meet his unreasonableness with your reasonableness, i.e., don't rise to the bait. Don't get upset when he just grunts at you. Just stay calm and stay reasonable. And actually, Jay, it really helped. And I just will never forget that.
It's so true. I think that's such a, you know, for any parents out there, like, you know, and Victoria and I are kind of like constantly reminding ourselves with it when, like everybody, we get tested, you know, from the kids. Yes. It's kind of like you react with negativity and you react with these things, and actually it just doesn't help. It doesn't work. It gets you more wound up. It's not great. So you're so right. That's a great saying, Pam. You know, just be even more positive, and
Well, thank you to Helen for those questions. I must get Charlotte and Anne-Marie giving me questions next time you're on the show. Now, over to trending. Big stories trending. The first one, Dominic Cummings getting his revenge. So I want to open that up to revenge. Have you ever seen someone you know take revenge, and what happened? Because I have a story about a girlfriend, but I want to hear your thoughts on revenge and whether you think it's ever worth getting revenge on someone.
No, I really don't think it is. I don't. I feel, you know, and it's funny, you should just kind of say what you said in regards to reacting to maybe negative situations in a broader scope. I think that's the only way that you can react. I think if someone has maybe got to you in the past or done something to you that's really, really upset you, you should just try and utilize that to inspire your own journey and not focus in on whatever they've done to get them back. It's not about them. It's about you. It's about your life journey and how you can be better every single day. You know, I know we're not talking politically, but it was just completely unbelievable to see someone like Dominic Cummings, who's obviously got his own agendas and his own things to talk about, but to speak so openly and terribly.
Wow. It was mind-blowing, wasn't it?
About the government, about the Prime Minister and the Health Secretary, who, you know, during unprecedented times are trying to do everything they possibly can to do best by us, to do best by the economy, which equally is with us. It was just mind-blowing how he got that free speech in front of people to do that. But equally, I understand that he needed to do his own things. But aside from that, you know, going back to what I said, I think, you know, revenge, I believe in karma. I believe that you've just got to just put that past you and just crack on, use it to fuel your own journeys in a positive way.
Interesting. You mentioned karma, because Anne-Maria says karma will find its way. Focus on yourself. Charlotte says the biggest revenge is to be happy. Helen says isn't nice and best to not react at all. And I have to say, I deal with this in my work a lot, as you can imagine, as a coach and psychologist. And I always say to people that short-term game of thinking, yeah, I've got that person back. Long-term it's just not healthy. No. It comes back on you. And I'll tell you what happened with my girlfriend. She found out her husband was having an affair. And the affair, because he was a project manager and would go around the countryside managing projects in different locations, the affair was conducted during working hours. So he would come home on time, but where he'd been, he'd be hitching up with this other woman. Well, she dobbed him in at work. But what happens? She had 2 young children. He loses his job. She doesn't get the financial support. And all just to kind of go, I told you so. And then, of course, it came back on her. And, of course, she regretted it. And I always say to people, please run what you want to do past someone. Let them, someone you trust, their judgment, and they'll probably tell you, don't do it, you know? And that's the general feeling about revenge is don't do it. Just make yourself move forward on your own journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Pam.
So a lesson to any cheaters out there, someone might dob you in it, even if it comes back on them. Now, the next story we wanted to tackle is the Friends Reunited has been trending on and off for about, 2 weeks, ever since everybody knew the Friends Reunited show was going to take place. Yeah. Now, the importance of friendships. I think people hold that television show in their hearts because it was all about the thick and thin that friends go through. And with your friendships, how do you, do you feel you've got friends that you can count on, that you can go through thick and thin with?
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of been blessed with so many friendships during my time in, from the armed forces, from back at home, and the armed forces community is very much like that because you spend incredible lengths of time together and then you won't see that person for a number of years. Yeah. And then you'll bump into that person. It's like no time has passed. And I think, I would hate to feel like I'm preaching or because I'm not, or giving advice because I'm not, I'm not what you are, Dr. Pam, like a trained psychologist and amazing at what you do. But I kind of feel like every experience negative of maybe friends that I've really had that have been close and then maybe we've fallen out or we've drifted apart is because of that, because of life just moves on and you drift apart, maybe not from any circumstances or reasons, but it's because of your own journey and it's your own thing. And if those people come back into your life, then amazing, like celebrate the times that you had together and celebrate the things that you still have in common. But if they don't, then don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I think that everyone comes into your life for a reason and for the moments that they do.
I totally agree. And it can be bittersweet like that with, sometimes there are natural organic reasons, as people say, why friendships come to an end, or sometimes there can be something toxic that happens. And I think when you've got a good friendship, just celebrate that. There's nothing. In America, we say body shifter, the person who would help you shift a body in the middle of the night. Those are the friends you hang on to.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
And Marie and Helen are talking about close friends, and a couple that they hardly ever speak to either. So, we all, have friendships that kind of meander back and forth from really intense to maybe a little bit more independent. Now we're running out of time quickly. Oh my gosh, very quick. The writer, Eric Carle has died at 91. He wrote hundreds of books, The Very Hungry Caterpillar being one of them. And I wanted to ask, do you have a special book from childhood that you loved in childhood?
Do you know what? It's James and the Giant Peach, because I always related to the name James, I think. And it's weird, isn't it? It is weird because
but children do relate to when it's their own name.
Do you know what? And it's so apt, isn't it? In a world when we're talking about diversity and we're talking about just being all inclusive and making sure that people are seeing themselves represented. And it's so weird. And I know that's on a real small it's completely different because it's just a name, right? But it's so important because, again, even now, I look back at that being my favorite book because it was like, oh, you know, it's
something for you, a connection with you. Yeah,
totally. And so, yeah, it's just a funny one, isn't it? But every time I see a peach, I'm like, yeah, James and Jack.
I love it. And you're wearing kind of peachy orange. Maybe it's a bit bright.
It's been red, actually, but it is coming out orange.
Now, listen, thank you so much for your time, Jay. Let's remind everybody they can find you on social media at Jay James. The undertones are at the _ overtones.
Overtones, yeah.
Am I saying undertones? Overtones on Twitter, but on Instagram
they're the same on it. Yeah, we're the same on Instagram. So it's at the _ overtones. And then on Facebook, it's just the overtones. But do you know what? Just come over to the website, theovertones.tv, and you'll see everything there. We're doing loads of different things. I think today, as a Throwback Thursday, we're asking people to get involved. If you've ever been to an Overtones show, just get on the socials and share your story with us. There's loads of pictures from the Overtones tour shows from the last 10 years, and it's just wonderful. It's wonderful to see. So come and connect with us. You can connect with me at Jay James. Obviously, I do my own radio show. Just come and get involved. We're all friends, and thanks so much for having me, Dr. Pam. It's always a pleasure to come and chat with you on here. And you know what? I'd love to chat again on Men's Radio with you, just because a couple of weeks ago, I had a vasectomy, and I know it's a bit of a dirty word, but I'd certainly like to chat with you about that, Dr. Pam, at some point.
I'm going to get you back on soon, and we'll talk about that. Thank you so much, darling. Lots of love. And now I'm going to move on to my next guest, who was a Fleet Street editor and is a journalist and columnist with the Daily Star and Women's Own. You cannot miss her on all the main TV and radio shows. I can't believe I got 15 minutes of her time now. She's at Dawn Neeson on social media, and I'm delighted to welcome the lovely and formidable Dawn Neeson to the show. Hello. It's so good to see you.
Hiya, Pam. Thank you so much for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure to join you today.
Thank you. And that is my favorite jacket you're wearing of yours. I've seen you in that before, like on other shows. I love it.
There's a limit to how many jackets I have. I have way too many red ones. So I'm trying to use different colors now. But, after a lifetime of working on newspapers where black was the uniform, it's really tricky to break out of it and wear nice, bright, cheerful colors.
Well, we're going to be talking about your tabloid journey, but first I have to say I'm going to have to call you Hot Dawn Neeson from now on, because a male pal of mine saw that you're going to be on the show and messaged me saying, she's so hot.
Oh my God, I dread to think which
very
one.
Hot Dawn Neeson on.
Well,
I said, okay, I
have to say, Pam, recently, I haven't been that hot because the British summer is delivering its true freezing cold conditions, isn't it? So, yeah, actually, officially the cold Dawn Neeson today, mostly. Getting better, mind.
You've got a secret fan. Now, listen, you have quite a career, and tell me how your Fleet Street journey started.
It started really unusually because there's no journalists in my family. My mum was a cleaner and she worked in factories. My dad was a lorry driver, basically. He was a driver. So there's no history of it in family. No one in my family went to university. And I just always, from being a little girl, wanted to be a journalist. I mean, I remember, Pam, when I think I must have been about 10 or 11 years old, I wrote to one of the big female names on Fleet Street, on national newspapers at the time, and that was Marjorie Proops. I mean, your older listeners might remember, and this has to be, as I said, around about 1974, 1975, giving my age away. Saying, I want to be she must have honestly thought I was mad. I want to be a journalist. How do I be a journalist? And you know what she wrote back to me, Pam? My mum still has this letter to that very day. I know, and for Christmas that year, I was brought my very first typewriter. which makes me sad. I mean, you'd have to explain to kids now what a typewriter actually is, as opposed to a computer. I know, but I mean, it makes me sound incredibly sad. But I loved reading, I loved writing, I loved newspapers. I used to make my own little magazines and newspapers as a little kid, just colouring them in and stuff. So it's something I always wanted to do. But obviously, when you are, I mean, it sounds like a cliche, but when you're a working class kid, it wasn't, no one went to university. I mean, the school I went to, there were 2 girls from our 6th form who went to university. Now, if you don't go to university, it's like unheard of. What? Why aren't you going? Why don't you go to So we just didn't go to university. It wasn't expected. It wasn't even a conversation we had in our home. So I did what I don't know, the old school route, I guess. I started at the bottom. I started making tea and filing stuff and, doing whatever people wanted me to do. And my very first staff job was actually on the national magazine, on a Woman's Own magazine, which I know, which I love the fact that I still work there and I write a column for them.
That's incredible.
Had a break in between. So I mean, I was a baby. But you know what? I think with most things in life, Pam, if you start at the bottom and you learn from scratch, you really learn the basics and the ropes, it's going to hold you good stead in whatever career you choose in life.
I agree so much. And I'm going to say, Helen says, hey, Dawn. Charlotte says, lovely color jacket.
Yeah, so, pink.
Do you feel, that, obviously that benefited you being willing to start at the bottom and do everything it took to get notice? When did you get the kind of first break after that? With you got a staff job there, but then how did you end up with a tabloid newspaper? Because they are hard to get into.
They are incredibly hard, but I was very, very lucky to work with some incredibly talented, strong, determined women when I was a very young female journalist. And the likes of our, Eve Pollard, Patsy Chapman, Bridget Rowe. I mean, these are names sort of like, Patsy edited the News of the World when it was really unheard of. Eve Pollard at the Express. So there were women for me to look up to as well. And these were strong, feisty women. They took no prisoners. And I was lucky enough to be asked by one of these, Kay Goddard, who was working on the Sun newspaper at the time. And she asked me to go from the magazine to the Sun. And this must have been, it must have been the early 90s, around about 92, 93. Yeah. So I was still in my very early 20s. And honestly, Pam, walking onto the news floor at the Sun at the time, it was the tail end of Kelvin Mackenzie's reign. So it was a real, another cliche, but a real baptism of fire. And I remember reading an interview with another female journalist who went on to be, an amazing editor. And she was saying that that newsrooms at the time, as she started a good 10 years before, she goes, yeah, they were full of men, but it was like a forest was full of trees. It was what it was. You didn't even think about it that much. So, it's like, look, as I said, it's like everything in life. And once you get in somewhere, and as I said, I was absolutely terrified. And I went, funny enough, when I left my newspaper, Kelvin Mackenzie actually took me out for a coffee. And, even now I'm a middle-aged woman who's sort of like been around for like decades, I was still terrified. So it's, I think, you've got to, as you would know yourself, you've got to feel the fear and do it in any case. So, the more something scares you, the more you want to overcome it and you do it. And I was just incredibly lucky, as I said, to work with so many inspirational women who paved the way for women like me. And hopefully, we are now in a situation where I was just looking it up. We have, I think, of the 22 daily and Sunday national titles in the UK, excluding Scotland, 8 of them are edited by women. Oh, wow. So we're not doing too. Yeah, of the 10 daily national titles, 40% of them are edited by women now. So girls, we are getting there.
Yeah. I was going to say, how about the sexism though? When I first started doing a little TV, about 1995 maybe, then I started pitching to find a magazine column as a young psychologist. I wrote to 30 magazines, and it was Sunday magazine from the Sun gave me my first break. but I can, and then I got a column, and then I got a column in the news. Sunday Magazine from the News of the World. Then I got a column in the News of the World. But let me tell you, there were times where I would go in for lunches or whatever, and feel very uncomfortable with some of the men. Just because I wrote a lot about sex, and they would just do the tabloid stuff on me about sex. And I just, I had to be really just tough, not take the BS, and crack on with what I was doing, because it was going well. I was at the News of the World for many years.
Which was an incredibly tough place to work. I mean, it really was. I mean, no one, look, not just for women, for young male journalists starting out in the industry, it was a very tough, scary world. It was dominated by alpha males who just thought anybody who was sort of like, a whippersnapper, male or female, was just really not. There were some exceptions. There were some very, very good people, as I have said already. The thing I found with sexism when I first started, and in fact all through my career, and I'm going to be completely honest here, is I never really experienced anything too bad, to be honest with you, Pam, because I went into, like I go into everything in life, not actually thinking about my sex. It was like, I am just a person. I am a journalist. I'm going to do a very good job. I know I'm good at what I'm doing. So I'm not going to think too much about my sex, because I think as soon as you start putting yourself in boxes, whether it's class or race or sex, or even age these days, then you encourage other people to put you in a box.
I totally agree.
So I behaved. I didn't sell out and behave like one of the lads. I mean, because I guess I was more tomboyish in any case, so it sort of came naturally to me. But I didn't play the, oh my God, I'm a girl, I can't do this. And I think not just in journalism and on national newspapers, in any career, as soon as you forget about putting boundaries in front of yourself, then you can overcome the boundaries that other people try to put in front of you. So you know what, Pam, I just got my head down and got on with it. And I think because I had that attitude, and you give as good as you get, but this applies to young boys and the girls working, they're both sexes. You give as good as you get. You don't take any, as you say, BS. And then, people do respect that and you get on. But it's the one thing, and look, this is going to sound terribly incorrect, Pam, but I think the one thing that worries me now with lots of youngsters of either sex going into journalism, newspaper journalism, or most careers, is they expect too much. They almost expect people to tiptoe round them. I mean, maybe we have, because everything's gone on wrapped, some of the younger generations in cotton wool. And I think they're in for a big shock when they, when you leave universities where people are, if people has a different opinion to you, they're not allowed to speak. You have safe spaces. You are mollycoddled to a certain extent. I think when you get out in the outside world of work, as you know, Pam, in any job, you're in for a real wake up call, a real shock. And while I agree that, sort of like, offensive behavior is wrong, people are going to have different opinions to you. Not everybody is going to be nice.
I totally agree with you. It's interesting. Both my children are in the music industry, and they've been in the music industry, say, for a decade each. And they talk about the young interns they are now, who are helping them. And they say things like, wow, they actually think they can clock off at 6 in the music industry. And I'm going, wow, when I was in newspapers, I never clocked off at 6. I was interviewing people for columns, at 9 at night after they'd put their kids to bed or at the weekend. And they have been surprised themselves by just people, they are, my children are millennials, but the generation underneath them, which I can't remember, is it Generation X?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I've got to agree with you. I think we got to find the in-between from what you and I have grown up with and what the new generation expects, because they expect what I think is too much. Now we're going to get some. I didn't realize we've only got like 2 more minutes. So I've got to ask you.
That's gone so fast.
I've got to ask you, you've given great advice already in just sharing what your career. Any top tips for anyone listening who might want to go into journalism?
You never give up. Never ever give up. I'm a firm believer. Like, as I said, I'm from a working class background. I didn't go to university. I didn't even go to college to study journalism because my parents couldn't afford. You didn't get a grant, so my parents couldn't afford it. So even if you're going to go into a newspaper floor or a magazine floor or a digital startup now, media startup, you make the tea, you file papers, you do the errands, you learn while you're there. And the one thing, Pam, just quickly, I know you have time, but the one thing now that breaks my heart is that everybody is working remotely like this, and youngsters are not getting that hands-on experience of working in whatever industry of their elders, not necessarily their betters, but their elders. And I think it's a very, very valuable learning curve to work with people that have been there and done that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I'm funny. I just didn't think I was going to agree with everything you said, but I'm going through the whole interview. It's been fabulous having you, Dawn. Of course, people can find you on social media at Dawn Neeson, and we'll see you on TV screens and radio shows wherever they look.
I'm on Talk Radio tonight, live with the legend that is James Wells. So please tune in to us.
James, say hello to James for me.
I will do.
Lots of love.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pam. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was Dawn Neeson. Now, last but not least, in what I kind of call my psychology slot, because we tend to always have a psychologist, I have the psychologist, presenter, writer, diversity ambassador, and a person, again, like Dawn, who you will see on so many TV shows as a psychologist. You can find her on Twitter at The Real Angela M, and on Instagram, Angela TV. Her website is angela.com, and I'm delighted that Angela Mutanda joins me now. And we can say hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm so well. I'm so happy you could join me. And when I emailed you, I was going, do you remember me? Because I think it was about 15 years ago you were on one of my old LBC shows. It was quite a long time ago. And
you are a legend, Pam. How can I forget you? I mean, and I see you everywhere and I read your stuff. You're brilliant. You're, like I said to you, you're a psychology rock star.
No, you are. We can argue about it. Now, Angela, it's so interesting. So when I was, asking you what topics we might cover in the psychology slot, you said how clients of yours are talking about major changes they have decided to make during lockdown. So tell me what sort of things have come up.
Oh, it's been fascinating, not just for my clients, but for me as well. I mean, I think when we all went into lockdown, we had the same thing in common, which was survival mode. So let's just follow these simple rules and just get on with it. Yeah. And after time went on, I think what started to happen is all our usual distractions got cut off, whether it's leisure, pleasure, going to a place of worship, going to the clubs, whatever it could be. And we had ourselves to ourselves and time to think. And I think that headspace it was actually some crisis for people where they were reflecting on their own lives. And I'm talking about people who haven't necessarily been, terribly affected by COVID. I mean, we've all been directly affected or indirectly affected, but I'm talking about people here who have been following the rules, haven't got any family members who are particularly ill with it, or themselves haven't been ill with it, but they've just been stuck in their four walls with either on their own, with their own thoughts, or with family members. And they have really gone through that kind of cycle, through that crisis of, what am I doing with my life? Do I love my job? Am I passionate about my relationship? Where am I going? Why do I put up with my children treating me this? You name it, I've heard it.
Yes. Well, that's interesting, because I have too from certain clients, particularly single people, because I do a lot of date coaching. And a lot have been sharing things like, realizing what they're really looking for, rather than just kind of scattergun dating, as I call it, where they just have a zillion dates and hope that they land on something, good. And a lot of them have felt, in terms of what they're looking for, that having been through, as you described, what we've all been through, that their goals are different now. And they want to not just try dating with anyone, but actually really look for the core values that they've kind of discovered in their lives. So
Yeah.
that's been really interesting to see that change with singles. But back to, some of the work you've been doing and the clients you've heard from. How have you guided clients who say maybe realize they don't have a very good relationship with their partner or family member? What's been happening?
I think what people who've come to me have initially responded with is with panic.
Oh.
And it's that sense of, oh my God, I don't want to be in this situation anymore. And a response to that panic has been, I want to do something today.
Wow.
I have to do something now. Yeah. And what actually it's an interesting process, because what my work has been about is actually slowing people down and going back to almost brass tacks and reforming a relationship with themselves, a bit like you're talking about there with, not the scattergun approach, but what is going on with me? What's my process? Do I have a plan? What are my feelings telling me? What's going on in my thought process? What's this panic actually broadcasting to me? So once you slow people down into that process, they just take a breath and then they step back and say, actually, yeah, it's what's really been going on. The root cause for me has been that I haven't been communicating with my partner. I haven't really been saying what's going on. And here we are stuck in this house together in silence. And that communication is telling them a lot, that they're not happy. So the reaction, almost that stress reaction, is I want to get the hell out of here as soon as I can. But actually, when you slow that down, when you say to someone, your silence speaks volumes. So what you want to do actually is to sit down with your partner and have an honest discussion. What do you want to say? And giving them that sense of control and agency and that kind of locus of control. You can say what you want to say. Let's write it down first, be specific. Those kinds of things have just enabled people just to slow down and make sense of what they're going through. Because I think when there's panic on the outside, we have a world that feels a little bit scary or has felt a bit scary, then the world, your internal world, also feels scary. That's double the stress. So nowhere feels safe. So the therapy actually has felt the safe space to slow down and reflect on what's really going on for me and how can I take steps to make it different, and having a plan and doing your research and speaking to all these things have been stuff that I've been working with over the last 13, 14 months.
And people listening who don't know anything about therapy, so you mentioned like getting people to, think about what they want to say and writing it down. So describe more about that.
Well, for some people, it can just be an overwhelming sense of there's a lot going on in my head and I just can't focus. And sometimes for people, just writing down how you feel, like a feelings diary, can enable you to just take it out of here where it's just churning around and you're ruminating and putting it on the page so that you can actually look at it and think, that's what I'm feeling. And then prioritize that. What's the number one thing that's really bugging me or that I'm really concerned about? And then just really sort of chunking it down so that it's not that overwhelming. And once you get to that space where you're doing one thing at a time, I will use sometimes some cognitive behavioral therapy. So just looking at how your thoughts and feelings are affecting your behavior. And I think for some people that's been really helpful, whether it's thinking about a career change or wanting to talk to their boss, for instance, about doing much more remote working, just having a plan. And that gives you a sense of, I have control, because the world has felt very out of control.
I totally agree with that. I think it's a real method when people don't realize. They think, I'm just writing down a few feelings or whatever. But I always say, when you think in ink like that, it kind of clarifies it when you're actually looking at it. And I think you're absolutely right. It gives people an opportunity to prioritize. and
Yes.
think, well, what is that first goal? Looking at all these things I've put down. And
Yeah.
I just think people don't realize how valuable that can be. And
Yeah.
I often get clients reflecting back to me saying, wow, I did really find it helpful. And I'm so glad that, you know, you're advocating that kind of method to start slowing down the mind, you know.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, it very much depends on the person. I mean, different people respond to different methods. So it's finding out who that person is and what they're looking for.
Yeah. Now, the next step, it'd be great to get some tips from you for this. So once people have maybe, let's say they're having a you know, problem with their partner, as you described, you know, they've had silence and, you know, you're locked down and it's not good. It's an unhealthy silence. It's not a nice, calm silence where you both love each other.
Yeah.
Once they've kind of prioritized their goals, what people often ask me, and I would love to know what you say, what do I first say to my partner when we sit down to chat? You know, how do I find the words? I think people are always worried about offending or hurting their partner's feelings when they don't want to do that. They just want to make progress. So what do you recommend?
Yeah, isn't it funny though? Because I've said to people, you know, that man or that guy in your life saw you giving birth, but it's really hard for you to sit down and say those words because you don't want to hurt them. And so my stance is always come from a loving place. So I love you and we have a wonderful relationship, but there are things that I think could be better. And I sometimes struggle when you don't listen to me. So if you come from that I space,
I agree.
sort of,
I statements.
I statements.
Yeah.
And you couch it from a loving space, because if your partner says we need to talk, that's very threatening.
It does feel very threatening. Yes. People do
because you think, well, something is wrong. And often if you want to sit down and talk to your partner, I bet your partner already feels that there's something going on that isn't working out for both of you. So they already know, they're already pretty primed. So coming from that I space, but it's a loving space, can begin that conversation. And you don't have to solve it all in that one conversation. It's a starting space. And I also say to people, be very specific as well. So don't just...
Two really good points there. But, you know, that first one of not going in with the expectation you're going to solve something in one conversation, I think is really important to flag up. Absolutely. And then, sorry. Well, I was going to say, and then your next point, you know, about then, you know, you've already broken it down in goals in your own mind, and you've highlighted a positive. You don't expect to sort it in one conversation, and in that, coming from that loving place you describe, you kind of present maybe, you know, generally, like, as you said, I don't feel you listen to me.
Yeah.
And it gives the person a chance to say, well, when? And you have to then have little examples ready, I think. Because sometimes it's just about the children. You don't listen to me about the children or something. So, it's sort of being prepared for each stage.
Yes. And if you're on the receiving end, it can be very difficult to be in that space. So what I say to people also is to engage in active listening. So rather than waiting for your turn to speak and go, yeah, but you do X, Y, and Z wrong, and you really get on my back about it, and I can't, you're going to get nowhere. It's just going to go to the defense space. So if you can actively listen, so I hear what you're saying, and, you know, tell me more. I get it. I've heard you. Then it's a two-way process rather than, you know, feeling, oh God, I just have to wait to kind of punch back with my words. So I think that it's the dance of give and take, which can be so difficult. But when you break it down and it comes from a loving space, it can work out really well.
And I think I love the way you were doing that finger pointing, like you always. And I often say to people, you know, your partner may well do things that hurt you or are thoughtless, but making it sound like they always do that, like you always make me the baddie with the children. No one is always in that role. So it's, you know, kind of reeling back from making it sound like they're always doing something wrong, you know,
Yeah.
and making
Yeah.
it sound like, you know, just sometimes I wish you would consider my feelings on this, you know, or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's, you know, a couple of other things I think that could be useful for people is, you know, going for a walk together in nature to have
Yeah.
this kind of a conversation can be really positive because it reduces stress and you're not eyeballing each other.
Yeah, absolutely. A kind of side by side, enjoying. And now that we're having good weather, it's the
Yes.
time to do that. I'm afraid we've run out of time. That has been so
Already?
helpful. I know, it just shoots past. So let me just flag up to people your website is angela.com. And your Insta is just simply Angela TV, but your Twitter is the real Angela M. So got those out there. I've got to run now, but it's been wonderful reconnecting with you. I hope you'll come back on the show soon again. Lots and
Thank you
lots
so
of love.
much.
And that was Angela Mutanda. And come back and join me in a fortnight where I'll have more fantastic guests. I hope you look after yourself and have a wonderful weekend. And thank you for being here at the Men's and Women's radio stations.